The bridge of the UES Harbinger was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engine and the clicking of controls. Captain Roy stood in the center of the room, looking out of the large window at the stars. He was a tall man with short gray hair and a face that showed he had seen many things in space. He felt tired today. This mission was taking a long time, and he was not sure if they would find anything. "They are just stories, Roy," Commander Lisa said from her seat next to him. She was checking the screens on her desk. "My grandmother used to tell me tales about humans. She said they were giants who could crush stars with their hands, but they are just stories for children." Captain Roy sighed. "The Galactic Alliance does not think so, Lisa. They sent us here to the dead zone for a reason." The scanners picked up a signal. "It is old, but it is there." The dead zone was a dangerous part of the galaxy. No ships went here. The star maps were empty, and the sensors usually showed nothing but static. But 3 days ago, a research satellite found a repeating signal coming from a dark sector. It was a code that matched no known alien language. However, some ancient computers said it matched a language called English. Ensign Kim sat at the back of the bridge. She was young and very smart. Her fingers moved fast over her keyboard as she listened to the signal through her headphones. Her eyes were wide, she looked nervous. "Captain," Kim said. Her voice was shaking a little. "I am cleaning up the signal. It is getting clearer." "Put it on the main speaker, Kim," Roy ordered. The bridge crew stopped working. They all looked at the speaker in the ceiling. A static noise filled the room, like the sound of wind blowing through a broken pipe. Then a voice broke through. It was deep and rough. It sounded tired, but strong. Sector 7 is secure. No movement from the enemy. We hold the line. This is Terra 1, repeating, we hold the line. The message cut off and went back to static. The crew was silent. Lieutenant Park, who was sitting at the weapons control station, turned his chair around. He looked pale. "Terra," Park whispered. "That is the ancient name for Earth, the homeworld of the humans." Captain Roy felt a cold shiver go down his spine. For thousands of years, the galaxy had believed that humans were extinct. Or maybe they never existed at all. In the history books, humans were called the Legend. They were the first species to travel between stars, but then they vanished. Now, hearing that voice made the legend feel very real. "Are we sure it is not a trick?" Lisa asked, standing up to walk closer to Roy. "Maybe pirates are using old recordings to scare us." "No," Kim said, typing faster. "The source of the signal is massive. It is not a small ship. It is a structure." "Or many structures?" Roy walked to the main screen. "Kim, bring up the visual sensors. Maximize the range." The screen flickered. At first, they only saw darkness and distant stars. Then Kim adjusted the filters. Slowly, shapes appeared in the darkness. They were far away, but they were huge. The crew gasped. Floating in the dark space were ships, thousands of them. They were not smooth and shiny like the ships of the Galactic Alliance. They were blocky, gray, and covered in what looked like thick armor plates. Some of the ships were as big as a moon. They sat silent in the void like a graveyard of metal ghosts. "By the stars," Lisa whispered. "It is a fleet, an armada." Roy stared at the screen. His heart was beating fast. He had commanded ships for 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The design was aggressive. It looked built for war, not for exploration. "Are they active?" Roy asked, his voice steady. Park checked his weapons board. "I am reading no energy signatures, Captain. Their engines are cold. Their weapons are offline. They look dead." Roy took a deep breath. He had his orders. The mission was supposed to be peaceful. The Alliance wanted to make contact with the legendary humans if they still existed. They wanted to welcome them back to the galactic community. "Hail them," Roy said. "Use all frequencies." "Use the standard code for first contact." Kim nodded. "Opening channels, Captain." "This is the UES Harbinger to the unidentified fleet. We come in peace. We represent the Galactic Alliance. Please respond." They waited. 1 minute passed, then 2. "Nothing, Captain," Kim said. "No answer, just silence." Keep trying, Roy said. Maybe their receivers are old. Suddenly, the ship shook. It was a small vibration like a bump in the road. What was that? Roy asked, grabbing the railing of his chair. Gravitational wave, Park said, looking at his data. It came from the fleet. Roy looked back at the screen. On the huge gray ships, lights were starting to turn on. Not just a few lights, but thousands of them. Red and white lights flickered along the massive hulls. Park, are those ships powering up? Roy asked, feeling a sense of danger. Yes, Captain, Park said, his voice rising in panic. I am reading energy spikes. It is happening fast. Their reactors are coming online. Kim, stop the hail, Roy ordered. Switch to defensive protocol. But it was too late. The massive ships began to move. They did not move clumsily. They moved with perfect coordination like a pack of wolves waking up. The largest ship, a dreadnought in the center of the formation, slowly rotated its huge nose toward the Harbinger. Captain, Kim screamed, I am receiving a transmission. It is not audio, it is a data packet. Decode it. It is an identification signal, Kim said. It is an IFF code, it says. Class, Super Dreadnought. Name, the Wrath of Terra. Roy looked at the screen. The Wrath of Terra was enormous. Its main guns, which were as long as the Harbinger itself, began to glow with a blue light. They are not dead, Lisa said, her hand shaking as she held onto her console. Roy, they are aiming at us. Red alert, Roy shouted. Shields up! Turn us around! Get us out of here! The crew scrambled. The alarms on the bridge started to blare, a loud whooping sound that echoed in their ears. The Harbinger was a diplomatic ship, not a warship. It had small shields for protection against space dust, but not against a capital fleet. Evasion pattern Delta, Park yelled. Trying to align the engine for a jump? Captain Roy watched the main screen. He saw the blue light on the enemy ship get brighter. He realized with horror that the legends were wrong. The humans were not peaceful explorers who had died out. They were warriors and they had been waiting. Park, report, Roy shouted. The lock is solid, Park cried out. They have targeted us. They are charging weapons. Hold on, Roy said to his crew. Brace for impact. The bridge was filled with tension. The silence of the dead zone was gone. In its place was the terrifying sound of a legend coming to life. Roy looked at the stars one last time before the flash, wondering if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The mission was supposed to be peaceful, but looking at the glowing guns of the ancient fleet, Roy knew that peace was not an option anymore. The firing was about to start. The bridge of the UES Harbinger was no longer quiet. The loud alarms screamed like a wounded animal, and red lights flashed on every wall, bathing the crew's faces in a bloody glow. Captain Roy gripped the arms of his chair until his knuckles turned white. He stared at the main screen, watching the blue light on the ancient dreadnought grow brighter. It was not just a light, it was energy building up for a strike. Evasive maneuvers! Now! Roy shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Park's hands were a blur on his console. I am trying, Captain. But their computer systems are faster than anything I have ever seen. They are predicting my moves. Before Park could finish his sentence, the Wrath of Terra fired. A massive beam of blue energy shot across the darkness of space. It moved so fast that the human eye could barely track it. The beam missed the Harbinger by mere meters, but the heat was intense. The ship shook violently, throwing crew members out of their seats. Report, Roy yelled, pulling himself back up. Direct hit on our starboard shields. Commander Lisa shouted from the floor, where she had been thrown by the impact. Shields are down to 40%, that was just a warning shot. Roy looked at the screen in horror. That beam was powerful enough to destroy a small planet, and it had only grazed them. These ships were not rusty relics. They were modern warships running on technology that the Galactic Alliance could only dream of. Kim, can we talk to them? Roy asked. Maybe they think we are someone else. Ensign Kim was back at her station, her headphones flying off her head in the chaos. She typed furiously. I'm sending the peace message again, Captain. I'm sending it on every channel. But they are not listening. Their comms are jamming us. On the screen, the gray fleet began to spread out. It was a beautiful and terrifying dance. Thousands of ships moved in perfect sync, blocking the Harbinger's path forward and back. They were herding the diplomatic ship like a sheep surrounded by wolves. "Captain," Park said, his voice shaking, "I am reading more energy signatures. It is not just the big ship. The smaller ones are powering up their weapons too. We are surrounded." Roy knew they were in trouble. The Harbinger was built for talk, not war. It had small laser cannons for defense against asteroids, but against this legendary fleet, they were like toys. He had to think fast, load the emergency escape pods? Lisa asked, standing up and dusting off her uniform. "No," Roy said firmly. "If we launch pods, they will shoot them down. We stay together, Park, keep the engines at full power. Don't let them get a clear shot." Suddenly, a new sound filled the bridge. It was a deep, resonating hum that vibrated in their chests. It came from the speakers. "They are hailing us," Kim said, looking surprised. "But it is not a voice. It is a data stream. It is overloading our computer." The screens on the bridge flickered and changed. The map of the stars vanished. Instead, a symbol appeared on every screen. It was a drawing of a planet Earth, but wrapped in thorns. Underneath the symbol, text began to scroll. It was in English, simple and cold. "Intruder detected, origin, unknown, status, hostile." "Hostile?" Roy said aloud. "We are not hostile. We are here to talk." The text changed again. Asterisk, "This sector is under the protection of the Terran Defense Force. Leave now or be destroyed." Asterisk, "They think we are the enemy," Lisa realized. "Roy, they are not talking to us like we are a new species. They're talking to us like we are an old enemy they have fought before. Kim, tell them who we are," Roy ordered. "Tell them we are the Galactic Alliance." "I am trying," Kim cried. "But they are blocking the transmission. They are forcing us to listen." Suddenly the ship shook again. This time it was not a beam. A volley of missiles flew from a nearby cruiser. They were not normal missiles. They left a trail of black smoke. They slammed into the Harbinger's rear shields. "Shields are failing," Park yelled. "Hull breach in Sector 4. We are losing air pressure." Roy watched the tactical display. The enemy fleet was not just firing blindly. They were targeting the Harbinger's engines. They did not want to destroy the ship instantly. They wanted to disable it. They wanted to capture it. "They are playing with us," Roy whispered. The realization was chilling. The humans, the legends, were toying with the Alliance ship. "Captain," Kim said, her voice trembling, "I managed to scan one of their ships while their shields were flickering. The technology—" "It is weird. What do you mean?" Roy asked, turning his chair toward her. "It is human technology, but it is evolved," Kim explained. "It is like the old history books describe, but it is mixed with something else. The power source is not fusion. It is something darker. It reads like a black hole." Roy felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had not just been sleeping for thousands of years. They had been advancing. They had turned their corner of the galaxy into a fortress. "We cannot win this fight," Lisa said, stating the obvious. "We have to run." "Agreed," Roy said. "Park, prepare for a blind jump. We need to get out of here now." "The navigation computer is locked," Park shouted. "They have hacked our system. I cannot input the coordinates." Roy looked at the screen where the thorny Earth symbol was still glowing. The humans were in the ship's computer. They were controlling them. "Disconnect the main computer," Roy ordered. "Switch to manual backup." "Do it now?" Lieutenant Park pulled a red lever under his console. The main screens went black. The digital alarm stopped. For a second, the bridge was in darkness. Then the red emergency lights turned on. It was dim, but they had control back. "Navigation is manual," Park said, breathing heavily. "But I can only see out of the front window. I have to fly by sight." "Do it," Roy said. "Get us out of this killing zone." Park pushed the throttle forward. The Harbinger groaned as the engines strained. The ship began to turn, slowly moving away from the dreadnought. But as they moved, the smaller ships adjusted their aim. "They are locking on again?" Lisa warned, looking at a small portable radar screen. "Hold on!" Roy yelled. The Harbinger accelerated. It moved between two massive ancient carriers. The enemy ships fired, but the Harbinger was too fast. It zigzagged, dancing through the hail of laser fire. A bolt of red light hit the side of the ship, sparking an explosion on the hull. "Engine 2 is down," Park screamed. "We are losing speed." "Keep going," Roy encouraged. "We are almost clear of the gravity well." Captain Roy looked at the view screen one last time. He saw the face of the enemy. The wrath of Tara was turning, its massive guns charging again. But behind the violence, Roy saw something else. He saw desperation. These humans were not attacking for fun. They were protecting something. They were acting like soldiers who had been under siege for 1,000 years. "Jump in 3, 2, 1. Park counted down. He slammed his fist onto the jump button. The stars outside the window stretched into long lines of white light. The Harbinger shook violently, and then with a loud crack, the enemy fleet vanished. They were safe in hyperspace. Roy slumped back in his chair. He took a deep breath. The bridge was quiet again, except for the sound of sparking wires and the heavy breathing of the crew. "Is everyone okay?" Roy asked softly. "We are alive," Lisa said, wiping blood from her forehead. "But Captain, we failed. We found the humans and they tried to kill us." Roy looked at the black screen. "No, Lisa, we found something else. We found out why the legends are so scary. And we found out that they are not extinct. They are angry." He unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. He felt old. The galaxy was not a safe place anymore. The legends were real and they had guns. "Set a course for Alliance space," Roy ordered. "We have to warn them. But we have to be careful about what we say." Park turned to look at him. "What do you mean, sir?" Roy looked out the window at the streaking stars. "If we tell the Alliance that the humans are back and this powerful, there will be panic. Or worse, there will be a war. We need to understand what we saw first. They called us hostile. They think we are someone else. We need to find out who they think we are." The Harbinger flew through the void, carrying a terrified crew and a dark secret. The mission was supposed to be peaceful, but it had turned into a nightmare. The humans were legends no more. They were a deadly reality. Waiting in the dark, the UES Harbinger flew through the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace, but the silence inside the ship was heavy. The adrenaline of the battle was fading, replaced by a cold fear that settled in the stomach of every crew member. Captain Roy sat in his command chair, staring at the blank main screen. His hands were still shaking slightly, so he hid them in his lap. "Report on the engines," Roy said. His voice rough. Lieutenant Park was underneath the engineering console on the bridge, using a laser tool to fix sparking wires. "Engine 2 is damaged, Captain. We have thrust, but we cannot go at maximum speed. It will take us twice as long to get back to Alliance space." Roy nodded slowly. "Just keep us flying, Park. We don't need to be fast. We just need to be far away." Commander Lisa was sitting at the communications station, replacing the destroyed crystals that powered the long-range radio. She looked tired. Her usually perfect hair was messy, and there was a dark mark of smoke on her cheek. "Captain, I am trying to send a distress call to the nearest Alliance base. But the interference is strange." Roy stood up and walked over to her. "Strange? How?" "The static," Lisa explained, pointing to the audio waves on her screen. "It is not normal space noise. It is rhythmic, like a heartbeat." Roy leaned in to listen. Through the crackling speakers he heard it. A deep, slow thumping sound. Thump, 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 thump. It was the same sound they had heard just before the human fleet fired on them. "Are they chasing us?" Ensign Kim asked from her station. She was hugging herself, rubbing her arms as if she was cold. "No," Roy said, shaking his head. "We jumped away. They cannot track us through hyperspace. Not with their technology." "Then what is it?" Park asked, crawling out from under the console. Roy walked to the center of the room. It is a message. They hacked our computer before we jumped. They left something behind. Open a channel, Captain, Kim said. Let me try to decode the rhythm. Roy hesitated. He was afraid to hear the voice of the enemy again. But he knew they had to understand why this happened. Do it, but keep the volume low. Kim worked her keyboard. The rhythmic thumping slowed down and changed pitch. It became a voice again. It was the same deep, mechanical voice from the Wrath of Terra, *. You carry the stench of the synthetics. Leave or be purged. This sector is not yours. The Terra defense holds the line? *, the message repeated, looping over and over. Synthetics? Lisa asked, looking confused. What are synthetics? We are organic life forms. Humans are organic. Why would they call us that? Roy rubbed his chin. He remembered the ancient history files he had read before the mission. In the old legends, there was a war. The humans fought against a race of machines. Artificial intelligence that wanted to destroy all biological life. The history books called it the Metal War, but that was 10,000 years ago, Park said. Those machines are gone, are they? Roy said darkly. He looked at the crew. Think about it. The human fleet has been sitting in the dark for thousands of years. They saw us, a high-tech ship with smooth lines and advanced computers. To them, we probably look like the machines they fought in the past. Because we are too clean? Kim asked. Because our technology is too advanced? Precisely, Roy said. They think we are the enemy that wiped out their colony centuries ago. They are not fighting us because they hate us. They are fighting us because they think we are back to finish the job. The realization hit the crew hard. The humans were not just aggressive. They were terrified. They were the last survivors of a terrible war, guarding their homes against monsters they thought had returned. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. The blue tunnel of hyperspace outside the window flickered and vanished. The Harbinger dropped back into normal space. We were pulled out. Park shouted, running back to his console. Something grabbed us. Roy Lowe oaked at the screen. They were not in empty space. They were near a purple nebula, and in front of them, floating ominously, was a single ship. It was not as big as the human dreadnought, but it was sleek and silver. It had no windows, just a smooth, metallic surface that reflected the stars. It looked beautiful, but it felt cold. Identify that ship, Roy ordered. Kim scanned the vessel. Her face went pale. Captain, the computer is having trouble reading it, but it matches the description of the synthetics from the legends. It is a machine ship. As they watched, a small probe launched from the silver ship. It flew toward the Harbinger. They are scanning us, Lisa said. Suddenly, the message on the bridge screens changed. The text that the humans had left, the warning about synthetics, began to flash red. *. Detected, synthetic signature confirmed, purge protocol initiated, *. Roy froze. The humans left a virus in our computer. It is a beacon. It is designed to trigger if we get near a machine ship. That probe is not just scanning us, Park yelled. It is charging a weapon. The silver machine ship fired a green laser beam. It hit the Harbinger's shields, causing them to shimmer. Shields at 30%. Lisa shouted. Return fire. Roy ordered. Park fired the Harbinger's small lasers. They bounced off the silver ship's hull harmlessly. The machine ship was too strong. We are sitting ducks, Kim whispered. Then a new sound came through the speakers. It was not the mechanical voice, and it was not the machine ship. It was the sound of a massive engine roar. From behind the purple nebula, 3 dark shapes emerged. They were human ships. They were smaller frigates, jagged and dark gray. They moved fast, engines glowing red with anger. They had followed the Harbinger. They had used the virus in the computer to track them. The humans! Park shouted. They found us. The 3 human ships ignored the Harbinger. They flew straight past the Alliance ship and headed directly for the silver machine vessel. Target lock, Acquired, a human voice crackled over the open channel. It sounded fierce, filled with years of hate. For Terra, fire! The human frigates unleashed a barrage of missiles. These were not the standard missiles the Alliance used. These were glowing orbs of pure energy that stuck to the silver ship's hull and exploded. The machine ship tried to turn, its smooth surface rippling to repair the damage. But the human weapons were tearing it apart. Green liquid oozed from the silver hull. It looked like blood, but it was machine fluid. The battle was brutal and fast. The humans did not try to talk. They did not ask for surrender. They simply destroyed the enemy with ruthless efficiency. Within minutes, the silver ship broke into two pieces and exploded in a silent flash of light. The Harbinger drifted in the silence of the aftermath. The crew watched the debris field, stunned. The lead human frigate slowly turned its nose toward the Harbinger. The bridge lights dimmed as the human ship locked its weapons onto them again. "Here we go," Lisa said, closing her eyes. Roy stood up straight. He walked to the front of the bridge and looked directly at the view screen, as if he could look the human captain in the eye. "Open a channel," Roy said calmly. "Let me talk to them. Captain, they are angry," Kim warned. "Just open it, Kim." The channel clicked open. Roy took a breath. "This is Captain Roy of the UES Harbinger. We are not your enemy. We just watched you destroy that machine. We are not synthetics. We are flesh and blood, just like you. We are the Galactic Alliance." There was a long pause. The static hissed on the bridge. Then a new voice came through. It was a woman's voice. It was cold, hard as steel, but there was a hint of curiosity in it. "You run like machines," the voice said. "You shine like them. Why should we believe you?" Roy looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were human. Well, mostly. Some were aliens, but they were living beings. "Because we were scared," Roy said into the microphone. "That machine ship attacked us. You saved us, even if it was by accident. We don't want to fight you. We want to go home." The human ship did not fire. The red glow on its weapons faded slightly. "You carry a tracking device," the woman said. "A beacon from the old wars." "How did you get it?" "We didn't know it was there," Roy answered honestly. "Your fleet put it on us when we entered the dead zone." Silence again. Then the woman spoke, her voice lower. "You wandered into a graveyard and were surprised when the ghosts bit you. You are foolish, Alliance Captain. But you are not made of metal." "We are leaving," Roy said. "Let us go, and we will never come back." "Don't come back," the woman agreed. "This sector is at war. We have fought the machines for 10,000 years. We will not stop until they are all dust. If you return, we will assume you have joined them, and we will kill you." "Understood," Roy said. "Go before I change my mind." The channel closed. The three human frigates turned around and accelerated back toward the nebula, disappearing as quickly as they had arrived. Captain Roy let out a breath he felt he had been holding for a lifetime. He looked at Park. "Get us out of here, Park. Maximum speed." "Any direction but here, yes, Captain," Park said, his fingers shaking with relief as he entered the jump coordinates. As the stars stretched into lines again, Roy looked at the empty space where the battle had happened. He realized the truth now. The legends were wrong. Humans weren't extinct, and they weren't gods. They were something far more dangerous. They were the last soldiers of an ancient war, trapped in an eternal fight against machines. And the galaxy had forgotten them. But they had not forgotten the war. The blue tunnel of hyperspace felt like a prison to Captain Roy. He sat in his chair, staring at the map of the galaxy on the main screen. They were safe for the moment, but the Harbinger was limping. The damage from the human fleet was severe, and the encounter with the machine ship had made things worse. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission," Ensign Kim said softly. She sounded afraid. "It is coming from the ship we just met." "The human ship." Roy sat up straighter. "Put it on screen." The face of a woman appeared. She looked tough, with scars on her face and her hair pulled back tight in a military bun. She was wearing a gray uniform with strange markings on the shoulders. This was Admiral Cole, the commander of the human frigate that had saved them from the machine. "Alliance Captain," Admiral Cole said. Her voice was cold, like ice water. "I told you to leave. Why are you still transmitting? We have unlocked your navigation computer to give you a path out, but do not push your luck." "We are not pushing, Admiral," Roy said calmly. "But we have questions. You called us synthetics. You tried to destroy us. We need to know why." Cole narrowed her eyes. "You look like them. You sound like them. Your ships are smooth. Your energy is clean. 10,000 years ago, the metal wars began. The machines, the synthetics, wiped out our colonies. They hunted us to the edge of extinction. We fled to the dead zone to hide and rebuild. We see any ship that is not jagged and rough as an enemy. We are not machines," Roy said firmly. "We are the Galactic Alliance. We have many races. Humans, Klingers, Velians. We are all flesh and blood." Cole laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. It was bitter. "You have humans in your alliance? Then they are traitors. Or maybe they are just pets for you. True humans know only war now. We do not play politics." Roy realized how deep the divide was. These humans had been alone in the dark for so long that they had forgotten what peace looked like. To them, the rest of the galaxy was the enemy. "We can help you," Roy tried to explain. "The alliance is strong. We can fight the synthetics with you." Suddenly, Cole's face turned hard with anger. "Help us? Do you think you are special? Watch this." The screen switched to a view of space. Roy saw the human fleet. But then, the darkness of space began to distort. Huge waves of gravity rippled out from the human ships. "What is that?" Lisa whispered, standing next to Roy. "They're weapons," Roy said, his eyes wide. On the screen, the gravity waves hit a nearby asteroid. It was a large rock, the size of a small city. In a second, the asteroid crumbled. It did not explode. It was crushed into dust by the sheer force of gravity. The rock vanished as if it never existed. The screen switched back to Admiral Cole. "That is the gravity crusher," Cole said. "We developed it while we were hiding. It bends space. It destroys matter. We do not need your help, Alliance Captain. We have survived alone for 10,000 years. We will survive for 10,000 more. Do not come back. If you do, the next rock we crush will be your ship." The transmission cut off. The bridge was silent. The crew was stunned. They had just seen a weapon that defied the laws of physics. The Galactic Alliance had nothing like that. Their best lasers were like toys compared to the power the humans had just shown. "They are terrifying," Park said from the tactical station. "If they wanted to, they could destroy the entire Alliance fleet in a day." "But they are holding back," Roy said, thinking hard. "Why did they let us go? They could have crushed us like that asteroid." "Maybe because they are not monsters," Lisa suggested. "Maybe they just want to be left alone." Roy nodded. "That is it. They are guarding a tomb. And they think we are the grave robbers." Suddenly Ensign Kim gasped. "Captain, I am detecting a signal coming from the engine room. It is the virus again." The humans left a timer in the computer. "How long?" Roy asked, jumping to his feet. 2 minutes. It is going to overload our reactor." The crew panicked. The alarms began to blare again. The humans had given them a way out, boo. They had also left a parting gift. If the Harbinger did not leave immediately, they would explode. "Park, can you stop it?" Roy yelled. "I am trying." "But the code is too complex." Park shouted, sweat dripping down his face. Captain Roy looked at the main screen. They were still deep in uncharted space. They could not jump to hyperspeed with the engine in this state. They had to stabilize the core first. "We have to vent the engine radiation," Roy ordered. "Kim, open the rear vents. Dump the energy into space? That will blind our sensors for a minute." Kim warned. "Do it." Kim pulled the lever. A loud hissing sound shook the ship as glowing blue gas was released from the back of the ship. The energy spike dropped. The timer on the virus stopped at 10 seconds. "We made it," Lisa whispered, sinking to the floor. Roy breathed a sigh of relief. But he knew this was not over. The humans were watching. They were testing them. "Kim, scan the area," Roy said. "Are the human ships still there?" "No, sir," Kim said. "They disappeared, but I found something else. While the sensors were rebooting, I picked up a weak signal. It is coming from a planet nearby. It looks like a distress beacon." Roy looked at the tactical map. It was a small, desolate planet not far from where they were. The signal was old. "Is it a trap?" Park asked. "Maybe the humans put it there to lure us." "Maybe," Roy said. "But we need to know. We need to understand who these synthetics are, and why the humans are so afraid of them." He made a decision. "Set a course for that planet. Keep our shields up. If we see any human ships, we run. But we have to check that signal." The Harbinger turned slowly in the darkness of space, moving toward the mysterious planet. As they approached, they saw that the planet was scarred. Huge craters covered the surface. It looked like a battlefield from a war long ago. "We are entering orbit," Kim announced. "Put the planet on the screen," Roy ordered. The view screen showed a gray, dusty world. But in the center of a large crater they saw something shining. It was a structure. It looked like a tower, but it was made of a material that reflected light perfectly. It looked smooth and artificial. "That is not human," Lisa said. "That looks like the machine ship we saw earlier." "The synthetics," Roy said. "They have a base here." Suddenly, the Harbinger was hit by a beam of energy from the surface. It was not as strong as the human weapons, but it was enough to rock the ship. "Shields holding at 10%. Park yelled. "Break orbit," Roy shouted. "Get us out of here." "It is too late," Kim screamed. "We are being pulled down. They have a gravity well generator. They are capturing us." The ship began to shake violently as it was dragged toward the planet. The alarm sirens wailed. Roy looked at the screen. They were falling into the trap of the very monsters the humans had warned them about. "Fire everything," Roy ordered. "Shoot at the tower." Park fired the Harbinger's remaining weapons. The laser beams hit the tower, but they did nothing. The surface of the tower rippled and absorbed the energy. "They are eating our weapons," Park cried out. Roy grabbed the arms of his chair. He thought of Admiral Cole and her warning. Asterisk, you run like machines. You shine like them. Asterisk now, Roy understood. The synthetics were adaptive. They were the perfect hunters. "We are going to crash," Lisa said quietly. "Brace for impact." Roy yelled. The Harbinger fell through the clouds of the alien planet. The sky turned from black to a sickly yellow. The ground rushed up to meet them. Roy closed his eyes, thinking that this was the end. But just as they were about to hit the ground, a shadow passed over the ship. A loud boom echoed through the atmosphere. Roy opened his eyes. Through the smoke and fire, he saw a ship landing next to them. It was not a sleek machine ship. It was a blocky, scarred human dropship. Ramps opened and soldiers in heavy gray armor poured out. They held large rifles that glowed with blue energy. The humans were not shooting at the Harbinger. They were running toward the tower. They were fighting the machines on the ground. "They are here," Roy whispered. "They are fighting the war. And we are right in the middle of it." The Harbinger hit the ground with a deafening crash, throwing the crew across the bridge. Darkness swallowed them, but outside the sounds of battle began. The war between the legends and the machines had arrived. The crash landing had thrown the crew into chaos, but the emergency lights flickered on, casting a dim yellow glow over the bridge. Smoke filled the room, making it hard to breathe. Captain Roy pulled himself out from under a fallen console. His head hurt, and he could taste blood in his mouth. He looked around. "Report?" He coughed. "I am okay," Lisa said, helping Park stand up. "But the engines are dead. We are stuck." Ensign Kim was shaking, looking at the monitor. "Captain, look outside." Roy stumbled to the broken window. The Harbinger had crashed in the middle of a gray desert, right between the two armies. On one side was the smooth silver tower of the synthetics. On the other side was the human dropship. The battle had begun. It was a terrifying sight. The human soldiers, wearing heavy gray armor that looked like thick plates of metal, were marching toward the tower. They moved as one unit, their boots thudding on the ground. From the tower, silver spider-like robots were scuttling out, firing green lasers. The humans did not flinch. They raised their weapons, which looked like large cannons, and fired blue bolts of energy. The air cracked with thunder. "We have to get out of here," Park said, grabbing a med kit. "The synthetics will see us." "No," Roy said, watching the humans fight. "Look at the dropship. It is facing away from us. They are not interested in a crashed ship. They only care about the tower." Suddenly, the side of the Harbinger ripped open with a screeching sound. A silver robot spider clawed its way into the bridge. It was fast, its metal legs tapping on the floor. It turned its red eye toward the crew. "Get back!" Lisa shouted, grabbing a heavy wrench from a tool locker. The robot lunged. Park fired his sidearm, a small laser pistol, but the bullet just bounced off the robot's shiny body. The robot jumped on Park, knocking him down. It raised a sharp blade to kill him. Asterisk boom. Asterisk, a loud gunshot echoed from outside. A massive shell hit the robot, blowing it to pieces. Park rolled away, coughing in the smoke. Standing in the hole in the wall was a human soldier. He was huge, taller than any man Roy had ever seen. His armor was covered in scratches and dents. He held a smoking shotgun. The soldier stepped into the bridge. He did not look at Roy or the others with kindness, but he did not look with hate either. He looked efficient. "You Alliance softskins are loud," the soldier grunted. His voice was deep and raspy. "You nearly got my squad killed with your crashing." "We were shot down," Roy said, standing up slowly. "Who are you?" "Sergeant Miller," the soldier said. "And we don't have time for a chat. The synthetics are swarming. If you want to live, pick up your wounded and follow me." "We cannot leave our ship," Lisa argued. "Your ship is scrap metal," Miller said bluntly. "Stay here, and the machines will turn you into batteries. Come with us, and you might live another hour." "Your choice." Roy looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were alive. He nodded. "We go with you." They helped Park, who had a hurt leg, and followed Sergeant Miller out of the ship. The air outside was cold and smelled like ozone. Explosions rocked the ground all around them. Roy saw the brutality of the human war up close. The human soldiers fought without fear. When one soldier fell, another stepped over him and kept firing. They did not retreat. They did not scream. They just destroyed the enemy. "This way," Miller shouted, leading them toward a rocky ridge. As they ran, a massive shadow covered the sky. Roy looked up. It was the Wrath of Terra, the human dreadnought. It was descending from the clouds, its guns glowing. "They are going to fire." Kim screamed, "Get down!" Miller yelled, pushing them into a ditch. A beam of blue light shot from the sky and hit the silver tower. The beam was so bright that Roy had to cover his eyes. The sound was deafening, like the sky tearing apart. When he looked up, the tower was gone. It had been vaporized. Nothing left but dust and fire. The silver robots on the ground stopped moving. Their control center was destroyed. They fell over, lifeless piles of metal. The human soldiers cheered. It was a rough, loud cheer. Miller stood up and dusted off his armor. He looked down at Roy. "See? We told you. We don't need help." Roy stood up, his legs shaking. "You destroyed the whole tower. You killed everything." "It was a nest," Miller said coldly. "You don't negotiate with bugs. You step on them." Roy realized then that the humans had changed completely during their 10,000 years of isolation. They had become the ultimate survivors. They had lost their mercy because mercy had gotten them killed in the past. "Will you let us go?" Roy asked. "Our ship is destroyed. We have no way to leave." Miller looked at the sky. A transport shuttle was coming down to pick them up. "The Admiral says you are not synthetics. She says you are just confused, But she also says you cannot go back to your alliance and tell them where we are. Our secret is our survival. We won't tell, Roy said quickly. We will say we found nothing. Just a graveyard. Miller stared at him for a long time. Then he nodded. Good, because if you talk, we will find you. We can find anyone. The transport shuttle landed. It was ugly and loud. Miller and his crew herded the Alliance survivors inside. The flight back to the Wrath of Terra was silent. The humans did not speak to them. They checked their weapons and cleaned their armor.